The day I opened that bank statement, my world shattered. The money I'd spent 6 years saving for my son's future, gone. Stolen by the woman I trusted most. She didn't just leave me, she abandoned our boy for another man. But while I was drowning in anger, my 10-year-old son whispered something chilling. "Don't worry, Dad. I'll fix everything." Betrayal changes people in ways they never expect. Have you ever faced a moment that forced you to choose between forgiveness and justice? Share your thoughts. I'd like to hear your story. My name is Miguel Rodriguez, and at 42 years old, I never imagined my own family would betray me in a way that would change everything. It started like any other Tuesday in Houston, the kind of day that feels so ordinary you never think it will change your life. The coffee maker hummed in the background, while the morning news droned about another oil refinery expansion downtown. Bills sat in a neat stack beside my laptop, and Carlos was at the dining table scribbling half-heartedly at his 5th grade homework, still in his Little League uniform from practice the night before. I clicked through the usual list of expenses, the kind of mindless routine that kept my focus on the numbers instead of the cracks that had been forming in my life over the past few months. Construction foreman's salary wasn't much, but steady work with Houston's building boom meant I could squirrel away $8,000 to $10,000 a year into Carlos's college fund. In 6 years, we'd built it up to just over $50,000, with our goal of hitting $80,000 by the time he graduated high school. Then the notification popped up on my phone, and my stomach sank before I even opened it. Balance below minimum threshold. That couldn't be right. The college fund had more than enough in it. 6 years of saving, cutting corners, working double shifts when the downtown office complex projects needed overtime, and promising Carlos that no matter what happened, his future would be safe. My hands felt strangely heavy as I logged into the account on my laptop. Maybe it was a bank error. Maybe it was some kind of system glitch. But the screen loaded slowly, painfully, and when it finally appeared, the number stared back at me like a cruel joke. 0. Not low, not almost empty, but completely drained. Every penny I'd saved from overtime checks, every bonus from finishing projects ahead of schedule, every dollar I'd scraped together while fixing neighbors' plumbing on weekends, all of it gone. I blinked hard, hoping I was reading it wrong, but the balance stayed the same. My chest tightened as I pushed back from the table, the chair legs scraping against the tile floor, loud enough to make Carlos look up from his math worksheet. "Isabella!" I called, my voice sharp enough to cut through the quiet hum of the house. No answer. "Isabella," I tried again, louder this time, but the silence that followed felt heavier than any response could have been. I grabbed my phone and dialed her number, my fingers slipping against the screen from the sudden sweat on my palms. Straight to voicemail. Her cheerful recorded voice felt like a slap in the face. I tried again, hoping to hear her actual voice, needing some explanation for what I was seeing on that screen. But it clicked to voicemail again just as quickly. My heart pounded, every beat echoing in my ears as a cold realization began to form. I opened our joint credit card account with shaking fingers, praying for any sign that this wasn't what I thought it was. But the transactions told me everything I needed to know. Flights to Miami, luxury hotels in South Beach, expensive dinners at restaurants with names I couldn't even pronounce. Places that charge more for a single bottle of wine than our entire monthly grocery budget. My stomach churned as I scrolled through the list, each purchase driving the knife deeper. And then I saw a name I didn't recognize, one she had never mentioned to me in 15 years of marriage. Rick Matthews. The living room felt smaller suddenly, tighter, like the walls were closing in around me. I set the phone down too hard on the coffee table, the sound sharp enough to startle Carlos, who wandered into the room with an apple in his small hand. He took a careful bite, watching me with those dark eyes that seemed older than his 10 years. I could see him trying to read my expression, the way kids do when they sense something's wrong but don't understand what. "Where's Mom?" he asked quietly, forcing my voice to stay even for his sake, even though my world was crumbling. "She said she had to go somewhere important," he said with a shrug, chewing slowly. His tone was too calm for what I was feeling, but there was something in his eyes, a watchfulness that made me wonder how much he'd already figured out on his own. Carlos had always been different from other kids his age. While his classmates were obsessed with video games and cartoons, he spent hours in my garage workshop, taking apart old radios and putting them back together, asking questions about how electrical systems worked, why some wires carried more current than others. His teachers called him gifted. I just called him my boy. That night, after Carlos went to bed, I sat alone in the living room with every light in the house turned off except for the glow from my laptop screen. The neighborhood was quiet except for the distant rumble of 18-wheelers heading toward the port and the occasional bark of Mrs. Garcia's dog next door. My hands trembled as I stared at the ceiling, my mind replaying every argument Isabella and I had over the past year. Every time she'd brush me off with a smile that now felt rehearsed and hollow. Every excuse about needing girls' weekends. Every time her phone buzzed and she'd step outside to take the call. She hadn't just left me, she had systematically destroyed everything we'd built together, stolen our son's future, and walked away without looking back. The weight of it all pressed down on my chest like a concrete slab. I didn't hear Carlos until he was standing in the doorway, his small silhouette outlined by the faint light from his bedroom. His pajamas were wrinkled, his hair sticking up on one side, the way it always did when he'd been tossing and turning. "Don't worry, Dad," he said softly, his voice carrying a strange calm that felt unsettling for a 10-year-old boy whose mother had just disappeared. "I'll fix it." Then he turned and padded back to his room, leaving me staring after him in the darkness, torn between disbelief and something I couldn't yet name. Something that felt like hope, but darker, more determined. As I listened to his bedroom door click shut, one thought echoed in my mind. My son had just made me a promise. And if there was one thing I'd learned about Carlos in his 10 years on this earth, it was that he didn't make promises lightly. The house felt unnaturally quiet the next morning, almost unnervingly so, as I sat hunched over my laptop at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee that had gone cold hours ago. Carlos had already left for school, catching the bus with his usual quiet efficiency, but not before giving me one of those long, measuring looks that made me wonder what was going on behind those dark eyes. My own eyes burned from staring at the screen, scrolling through page after page of financial statements, hoping against hope that what I'd discovered the night before had been some kind of nightmare, a banking error, anything but the brutal reality staring back at me. But the numbers didn't lie. Every account told the same devastating story. There were purchases I didn't recognize scattered across our credit card statements, like breadcrumbs leading to my destruction, high-end jewelry stores in Miami Beach, boutique designer shops in Manhattan, luxury restaurants that charge more for a single appetizer than I made in a day managing construction crews. The dates painted a picture I didn't want to see. While I'd been working 60-hour weeks to keep us afloat and build Carlos's future, Isabella had been living a double life I'd never even suspected. Then came the name that made my blood run cold every time I saw it. Rick Matthews. It appeared again and again in payment memos, in wire transfers, even in travel bookings. Private charter flights to cities I'd never been to. Hotel suites in places like the Four Seasons and the Ritz-Carlton, with prices that made my jaw clench so hard it ached. Spa retreats booked under Isabella's name, with Rick listed as her guest. Couples packages that cost more than my monthly salary. I leaned back in my chair, pressing my palms into my face until I saw stars. My breath came slow and uneven as the timeline began to assemble in my head like a jigsaw puzzle made of broken glass. All the signs had been there, staring me in the face for months. Her new clothes that she claimed came from clearance sales, but still had designer tags. Her sudden insistence on girls' weekends in cities she'd never shown interest in before. Her phone that never left her hand anymore, buzzing with messages she'd read with secretive little smiles before quickly deleting them. At the time, I'd convinced myself she just needed space. That after 15 years of marriage and the stress of raising Carlos while I worked long hours, people grew and changed. I'd even encouraged her to take time for herself, thinking it would make our marriage stronger. What a fool I'd been. Isabella hadn't been finding herself. She'd been replacing me piece by piece with a man who promised her a lifestyle I could never provide on a construction worker's salary. Rick wasn't just some casual affair. This was calculated, methodical, surgical in its precision. She had been siphoning our savings account with the skill of a professional embezzler, starting small with withdrawals that wouldn't trigger alerts, then growing bolder as she gained confidence. I opened the shared savings account again, the one that was supposed to be untouchable, sacred, dedicated solely to Carlos's future. My pulse quickened as I scrolled back through the last 8 months, watching our careful progress get systematically destroyed. At first, the withdrawals had been almost unnoticeable. 200 here, 500 there. Money that could have been explained away as unexpected expenses or emergency repairs. Then the amounts grew bolder, more brazen. 5,000, 10,000, 25,000. Until finally one massive withdrawal had drained the account completely. My eyes locked on the final transaction, my chest tightening as I read the description that felt like a knife twisting in my gut. Cashier's check, Rick Matthews. She hadn't even tried to hide it in the end. She'd written our son's future away to her lover with the same casual indifference she might have shown paying a utility bill. I felt my stomach twist into knots, a hollow, nauseating ache spreading through my chest like poison. This wasn't just betrayal of our marriage vows or our 15 years together. This was theft of the most precious kind, the theft of dreams, of security, of everything I'd worked my ass off to build for the boy who called me dad. A cold, focused anger began to replace the hollow ache in my chest, settling into my bones like steel reinforcement in concrete. My fingers curled into fists against the table. Every instinct I had wanted to call her right now, to scream, to demand answers, to let loose 15 years of rage and disappointment. But years of managing construction crews had taught me something valuable about anger. Confrontations done in the heat of the moment rarely ended well. Hot heads led to mistakes, and mistakes led to regrets you couldn't take back. If Isabella thought she could destroy my family quietly and walk away clean, she was about to learn how wrong she was. I reopened the laptop with deliberate calm, my movements methodical and controlled. This time, I began downloading every statement, taking screenshots of every suspicious transaction, saving them in a secure folder on my desktop labeled Evidence. Names, dates, amounts, locations. I documented everything with the same attention to detail I brought to construction project reports. If this was going to be a war, I was going to fight it smart. Then, just as I finished saving the last bank statement, my phone buzzed on the table. The notification made my heart skip a beat. An email from our mortgage company. Subject line, joint property transfer request, pending approval. My jaw clenched as I opened the message and read the attached document. The language was dry, legal, but the meaning was crystal clear. Isabella had initiated paperwork to transfer our house title into her name alone, effectively cutting me out of the only major asset we owned together. She hadn't just emptied our accounts and stolen our son's future. She was trying to erase me from our life completely, to leave me with nothing but the clothes on my back and a pile of debts in my name. I stared at the glowing screen, my reflection hard and unrecognizable in the darkened window behind it. For a long moment, I sat in absolute silence, feeling something fundamental shift inside me. When I finally spoke, my voice was low and controlled, carrying a promise that seemed to echo in the empty kitchen. You wanted war, Isabella. Congratulations. You just declared it. I closed the laptop with deliberate care, my mind already working through possibilities, strategies, next moves. This wouldn't be a shouting match in some lawyer's office. This wouldn't be a messy confrontation that traumatized Carlos or made me look like the angry ex-husband. No, this would be strategic, quiet, ruthless. For the first time since opening that bank statement, my hands stopped shaking. I knew exactly what I had to do, but I had a feeling I wouldn't be doing it alone. The following days passed in a haze of forced normalcy and quiet tension. I had perfected the art of pretending everything was fine, at least for Carlos's sake. He needed stability, routine, some sense that his world wasn't completely falling apart, even though mine already had. But something else began to tug at my attention, something that made me wonder if my son was handling this crisis better than I was. Carlos, who usually spent his after-school hours glued to video games or sprawled on the couch with comic books, had started disappearing into my garage workshop for hours at a time. At first, I thought nothing of it. A 10-year-old boy looking for privacy and space to think wasn't unusual, especially one who'd always been drawn to taking things apart and understanding how they worked. But one evening, when I went to grab my impact driver for a weekend project, I stopped dead in my tracks. The garage was no longer just a cluttered space filled with construction tools, spare lumber, and storage bins. Someone had transformed it into something that looked like a cross between an electronics lab and a mission control center. Whiteboards lined the walls, covered in neat handwriting and complex flowcharts that definitely weren't typical fifth-grade homework. Wires and small circuit boards were spread across my main workbench in organized rows, and my old laptop sat open, its screen flickering with lines of code I couldn't begin to understand. In the center of it all sat Carlos, completely absorbed in his work, his small hands moving with surprising precision as he connected wires to what looked like a portable hard drive he'd somehow modified. His face was calm, focused, wearing an expression of concentration I'd seen on the faces of veteran electricians when they were troubleshooting complex systems. But this was my 10-year-old son. "Carlos," I said carefully, stepping into the garage, "what exactly are you doing in here, buddy?" He looked up at me without any trace of surprise, as if he'd been expecting this conversation. "Just working on some projects, Dad. School stuff mostly." My eyes moved from the whiteboards to the electronics scattered across the bench. The writing on the boards didn't look like any elementary school science project I'd ever seen. Terms like data recovery and network access protocols were definitely not standard fifth-grade vocabulary. "This is school stuff?" I tried to keep my voice neutral, but skepticism crept in around the edges. Carlos gave me a small smile, one that felt too mature for his age. "Advanced placement work. The teacher said I could do independent studies since I finished the regular assignments so fast." He wasn't lying exactly, but I could tell he wasn't telling me the whole truth either. Carlos had always been honest with me, sometimes brutally so, but this felt different, like he was protecting me from something. Over the next few days, his questions grew increasingly specific and pointed. At breakfast, between spoonfuls of cereal, he asked, "Dad, how do banks actually track money transfers? Like, if someone moved money from one account to another, would there be records of exactly when and where?" I paused with my coffee cup halfway to my lips. "Why are you asking about that?" "Just curious," he said with a shrug that was a little too casual. "You work with payroll and budgets all the time. I wanted to understand how the money actually moves around." Later, while I was helping him with math homework that he clearly didn't need help with, he asked, "Do you and Mom have any accounts that only one person can access? Like, could someone make withdrawals without the other person knowing?" The question hit closer to home than I was comfortable with. "Carlos, why are you asking about this stuff?" He didn't look up from his worksheet. "No reason, just wondering how it all works." But there was something in his tone, a purpose behind these questions that made me uneasy. Each one felt too targeted, too specific to be random curiosity. That night, I found myself standing quietly outside the garage, watching Carlos work through the small window. He was hunched over the laptop, typing with a speed and confidence that seemed impossible for a kid his age. The screen was filled with what looked like some kind of banking interface, though from my angle I couldn't make out the details. Every few minutes he would lean back, stare at the screen with intense concentration, then start typing again with renewed focus. His movements were methodical, purposeful, like he was working through a complex problem step by step. As I watched, Carlos suddenly stopped typing and spoke to himself in a low voice. "You left tracks everywhere," he said quietly. "Stupid." The certainty in his voice sent a chill down my spine. This wasn't a kid playing with computers. This was someone with a plan. The next morning, Carlos was already awake when I got up, sitting at the kitchen table with his cereal bowl and a notebook covered in diagrams that looked like network maps. When he saw me coming, he casually flipped the notebook closed. "Morning, Dad," he said, his voice carrying that same strange calm that had been settling over him for days. "Morning, son. You're up early?" "Couldn't sleep," he admitted, then looked at me with those dark eyes that seemed to see too much. "Dad, if someone stole money from our family, would you want to get it back?" The question caught me off guard. I set my coffee mug down and studied his face, looking for some clue about where this was leading. "Of course I would. Why do you ask?" Carlos held my gaze steadily. "And if the police couldn't help us, or if it would take too long for them to do anything, would you want to handle it yourself?" There was something in his voice, an edge of steel that made me realize this wasn't a hypothetical question. My son was asking for permission, or maybe just confirmation that we were on the same side. "Carlos," I said slowly, "what exactly are you thinking about?" He was quiet for a long moment, then reached across the table and opened the notebook he'd been hiding. The pages were covered with detailed diagrams, flowcharts, and what looked like account numbers and routing information. "I'm thinking," he said quietly, that Mom made a really big mistake when she thought we wouldn't fight back. I stared at the notebook, my heart pounding as I began to understand what my 10-year-old son had been working on in that garage. This wasn't just homework or idle curiosity. Carlos had been planning a war, and from the look of determination on his young face, he was ready to win it. Show me, I said finally. Carlos smiled for the first time in days, and something cold and satisfied flickered in his eyes. I was hoping you'd say that, Dad. That evening, Carlos led me into his makeshift command center with the confidence of a general briefing his troops. The transformation was even more impressive up close. He'd organized everything with military precision, cables sorted by type and length, circuit boards labeled with tiny handwritten tags, and a series of monitors displaying information that made my head spin. "Okay, Dad," he said, settling into the folding chair he'd positioned in front of the main workstation. "Here's what I found." He turned the laptop screen toward me, revealing a detailed spreadsheet that looked like something from an FBI investigation. Names, dates, account numbers, transaction amounts, all organized in neat columns with color-coded highlighting that indicated different types of activity. "I got into Mom's email account first," Carlos explained matter-of-factly. "She never changed the password from the one she's been using for years. From there, I could see all her account recovery emails and password resets." My jaw dropped. "Carlos, you hacked your mother's email?" He looked at me with those serious dark eyes. "She stole our money, Dad. I just took back the information we needed to prove it." He clicked to another tab, showing bank transfer records that made my blood pressure spike. "Look at this. She's been moving money to Rick Matthews for 8 months. Small amounts at first, then bigger and bigger chunks. The total comes to $57,412. The precision of that number hit me like a punch to the gut. Not only had Carlos tracked down every penny, but he'd been thorough enough to account for transaction fees and interest. "But here's the really interesting part," Carlos continued, clicking to a new screen. "Rick Matthews isn't just some guy who seduced Mom. He's a professional con artist." The screen filled with what looked like a comprehensive background check. Multiple identities, previous fraud convictions, a pattern of targeting middle-class women with savings accounts and small businesses with loose financial oversight. "How did you find all this?" I asked, genuinely amazed and slightly terrified by my son's capabilities. "Public records mostly, court documents, news articles, social media profiles he forgot to delete. Rick's been running the same scam for years. He finds lonely wives, promises them a better life, gets access to their money, then disappears when the accounts are empty." Carlos opened another folder, revealing dozens of photographs and documents. "He's done this at least 6 times that I could find. There are probably more." I stared at the evidence accumulating on the screen, feeling a mix of pride and unease. My 10-year-old son had conducted a more thorough investigation than most private detectives could have managed. "Carlos, this is incredible work, but what are you planning to do with all this?" He smiled and for a moment looked like the little boy who used to build elaborate Lego cities on the living room floor. Then his expression hardened into something far more determined. "I already did it, Dad. I sent everything to the FBI's Financial Crimes Division, the Texas Attorney General's office, and the Houston Police Department Fraud Unit. Every piece of evidence, every transaction, every connection to his previous victims." My heart stopped. "You what?" "And that's not all," Carlos continued calmly. "I also managed to recover $48,000 from Mom's secondary accounts before she could move it offshore. It's already back in our savings account." I blinked hard, sure I'd misunderstood. "You recovered the money? How?" Carlos's smile turned slightly mischievous. "She left her online banking logged in on the computer. And Rick, he's not as smart as he thinks. His security is terrible. Most of his accounts use the same password with tiny variations." The implications of what my son was telling me began to sink in. "Carlos, you could go to jail for this. This is hacking, identity theft, wire fraud." "No, Dad," he interrupted gently. "This is recovering stolen property and reporting crimes to the authorities. I documented everything. Every transaction I reversed, I can prove it was our money that was taken illegally." He opened a final folder, revealing a timeline that connected every theft to legitimate sources in our family accounts. "Look, I can trace every dollar back to your paychecks, my birthday money from Grandma, even the $20 I got." for doing extra chores last summer that Mom said she'd put in my college fund. The thoroughness was staggering. Carlos had built an unshakable case that would stand up to any scrutiny. "There's just one more thing we need to do," Carlos said quietly. Before I could ask what, my phone rang. The caller ID made my stomach lurch. Isabella. I looked at Carlos, who nodded knowingly. "Answer it, Dad. Put it on speaker." I swiped to accept the call, my hand trembling slightly. "Hello, Isabella." Her voice came through frantically, high-pitched with panic. "Miguel, thank God you answered. Something's wrong. Really wrong. Rick's gone. He just disappeared. And my accounts. I can't access any of my accounts. Everything's frozen or empty. I don't know what happened." I looked at Carlos, who was watching the phone with calm satisfaction. "I'm stranded, Miguel. I'm at some hotel in Miami, and I can't pay for anything. My cards aren't working. I don't even have money for food. You have to help me. Please." The desperation in her voice was real, but I felt no sympathy. Only cold justice. "You need help," I repeated slowly. "You emptied our son's college fund, drained our savings, tried to steal our house, and now you want my help?" "Miguel, I made a terrible mistake. Rick promised me things would be different, that we'd have a better life together. I didn't know he was lying. I didn't know about the other women. But you knew about our money," I said flatly. "You knew exactly what you were taking." Carlos leaned closer to the phone. "Is that Mom?" "Yes," I said simply. "Put me on speaker, Dad." I looked at Carlos, seeing something in his expression that made me comply without question. "Isabella, Carlos is here," I said. There was a pause, then Isabella's voice came through softer, almost trembling. "Carlos, baby, I'm so sorry about everything. I love you so much. You know that, right?" Carlos stared at the phone for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was calm, but carried an edge of steel I'd never heard from him before. "Don't worry, Mom," he said quietly. "I fixed everything." The silence on the other end of the phone was deafening. Isabella's breathing became rapid, almost panicked. "Carlos, what do you mean you fixed everything? Baby, please tell me you didn't do anything dangerous." But Carlos had already reached over and ended the call. The kitchen fell silent, except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic on the interstate. I stared at my son, feeling a mixture of pride and concern that I couldn't quite sort out. "Carlos, what happens now?" He looked up at me with those serious, dark eyes. "Now we wait for Rick to make his move. He's going to figure out what happened eventually, and when he does, he's going to be angry." "What do you mean, wait for him to make his move?" Carlos's expression didn't change. "Men like Rick don't just disappear quietly when they lose. They get desperate, and desperate people make mistakes." As if on cue, my phone rang again. This time, the caller ID showed a number I didn't recognize. Carlos nodded toward the phone. "Answer it, Dad. That's him." I hesitated, then swiped to accept. "Hello?" A man's voice came through, harsh and aggressive. "You think you're real clever, don't you? I know what your little brat did to my accounts." My blood ran cold. "Who is this?" "This is Rick Matthews, and I know where you live. You and your kid have 48 hours to fix this mess, or I'm coming for both of you." Carlos stepped closer and held up a small device I hadn't noticed before, something that looked like a modified radio with a blinking red light. "Let him talk, Dad," Carlos whispered. "The more he says, the better." I put the phone on speaker. Rick's voice filled the kitchen, venomous and threatening. "You hear me, Rodriguez? I know your address. I know where the kid goes to school. You better transfer every penny back to my accounts, or I'll make sure you both regret it." "You're threatening my family," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm promising you consequences," Rick snarled. "That little punk cost me everything. I had plans for that money. I had people counting on me. Now they're going to be very unhappy, and guess who they're going to blame?" Carlos made a circular motion with his hand, encouraging me to keep Rick talking. "What kind of people?" I asked. "The kind of people who don't accept excuses," Rick said. "The kind who collect debts with interest. Your kid just signed both your death warrants." The threat was explicit enough to make my hands shake, but Carlos looked strangely calm, almost satisfied. "See you soon, Rodriguez," Rick said, and the line went dead. I turned to Carlos, my heart pounding. "What was that device?" "Digital recorder connected to an upload stream," Carlos said simply. Everything Rick just said is already in the hands of law enforcement. Threats across state lines, extortion, intimidation of a minor, that's federal jurisdiction. I stared at my son in amazement. You planned this entire conversation? I've been monitoring his communications for days, Dad. I knew he'd call when he realized what happened to his money. Men like Rick are predictable when they're cornered. 2 days later, it happened exactly as Carlos had predicted. I was in the garage helping Carlos organize his equipment when we heard the sharp knock at the front door. Carlos didn't even look up from the circuit board he was examining. "That's him," he said calmly. "How can you be sure?" "Because it's exactly 47 hours and 32 minutes since his phone call. Rick's the kind of man who thinks dramatic timing makes him look more threatening." The knock came again, harder and more insistent. I walked to the front door and opened it cautiously. Rick Matthews stood on my porch, and he looked exactly like what I'd expected from a professional con artist. Expensive clothes that were slightly wrinkled, like he'd been traveling hard. Cold eyes and a practiced smile that didn't hide the anger underneath. But he also looked desperate. The kind of desperate that made dangerous men do stupid things. "Miguel Rodriguez," he said, pushing his way into the entryway before I could react. "We need to talk." "You need to leave my property," I said, but Rick was already past me, looking around the house with predatory interest. "Where's the kid? I know he's here. This mess isn't going away until we have a conversation." "What mess would that be?" The voice came from behind me. Carlos stepped into the hallway, calm as always, carrying what looked like a small tablet computer. His presence seemed to fill the room, despite his size. Rick's eyes fixed on Carlos with undisguised hatred. "You little punk, you have no idea what you've done." "I know exactly what I did," Carlos replied evenly. "I reported your crimes to the appropriate authorities and recovered money you stole from my family." "Recovered?" Rick's voice rose. "You hacked into private accounts. You committed federal crimes." Carlos tilted his head slightly. "Did I? Can you prove that?" "Because I have documentation showing that every dollar I transferred came from accounts funded by money stolen from us. It's not hacking when you're taking back your own property." Rick's face flushed red. "You think you're smart? You think some kid can outsmart me? I've been running cons since before you were born." "And now you're done," Carlos said simply. Rick took a step forward, his hands clenched into fists. "We'll see about that. You're going to fix this right now, or I'm going to..." "Going to what?" Carlos interrupted. "Threaten a 10-year-old? Assault a minor in front of his father? Please continue. The recording quality is excellent." Rick froze. "What recording?" Carlos held up the tablet, showing a live video feed. "Smile for the camera, Rick. You're being broadcast directly to the FBI's Houston field office. Agent Martinez has been watching this entire conversation." The color drained from Rick's face. "You're lying." "Am I? Would you like to test that theory by completing your threat?" For the first time since walking into my house, Rick looked uncertain. The predator was realizing he'd walked into a trap. That's when we heard the sirens. Rick's head snapped toward the sound, his bravado crumbling. "You set me up." "You set yourself up," Carlos replied. "The moment you decided to steal from working families and threaten children." The sirens grew louder, then stopped outside our house. Moments later, the front door burst open and federal agents poured in, weapons drawn. "Rick Matthews," the lead agent called out. "You're under arrest for wire fraud, extortion, interstate threats, and conspiracy to commit financial crimes." Rick raised his hands, but his eyes stayed locked on Carlos. "This isn't over, kid." Carlos met his gaze without flinching. "Yes, it is." As the agents led Rick away in handcuffs, I put my hand on Carlos's shoulder. "How did you coordinate all this?" "I've been working with Agent Martinez for 3 days," Carlos said. "Once I had enough evidence, they were very interested in Rick's operation. Turns out he's been on their watch list for months." I looked down at my son, this brilliant, determined boy who had become our family's protector when I couldn't figure out how to fight back. "You saved us," I said quietly. Carlos shrugged, but I caught the small smile that flickered across his face. "That's what family does, Dad. We fix things when they're broken." Later that night, as Carlos worked quietly in his garage workshop, I sat nearby just watching him. He'd returned to building his drones and circuit boards, but something fundamental had changed between us. We were partners now, bound together by the crisis we'd survived and the justice we'd won together. The college fund was restored. Rick was facing federal charges. Isabella would have to answer for her role in the scheme. But more than that, I discovered that my son was stronger, smarter, and more capable than I'd ever imagined. The boy who'd once built elaborate Lego cities had built something far more impressive, a strategy that brought down a criminal and protected our family's future. As I watched Carlos work, one thought echoed in my mind. She tried to destroy us, but in doing so, she revealed the son she'd underestimated, the boy who became our shield when everything fell apart, and that shield would never break.